Welcome to the Growth Minded Accountant podcast, where our experts will share best practices on running your firm in the digital age. This podcast is brought to you by CountingWorks Pro. Let's get started.
Welcome to another episode of the Growth Minded Accountant podcast. My name is Lee Reams. I am the founder and CEO of CountingWorks, and I want to be the first to welcome you to 2026. This is our first podcast of the year. And believe it or not, Rebekah, who is my guest, our Chief Visibility Officer, this is season 6 of the Growth Minded Accountant. I can't believe we've already been doing this for 5 years. Is that crazy?
That is wild. It's very exciting.
So that is the good news. We've built quite a following. We've had tens of thousands of people download our content. And in the past years, we've been talking a lot about AI and how it's going to affect the industry and the profession. And today's topic is kind of going to play on that, but I'm going to start defining some things that we're seeing in the marketplace, kind of the pain points that I'm hearing from our clients, what we see on LinkedIn, what we see in our Growth Minded Accountant Reddit channel. And it's I'm going to give a title here, the third layer, the hidden system most accounting firms don't know they're missing. And what do you mean by that, Lee? And I'm going to get into it. It's the client experience layer. And I'm going to give you a full background. I'm actually going to talk a little bit about what I see now is in the AI fear narrative. I'm going to address that. So there's a lot of really good kind of high level talking points. So every accounting firm, every tax pro firm has 3 layers, but most run on only 1 or 2. And I'm going to explain that, meaning tax prep or your practice management tools. And they have a missing layer. And that's the reason your firm feels harder than it should to run. That's why you're running out of time. That's why you have clients that ghost you. That's why you have clients that you're like, why did I pick this client? Why am I working with them? So let's start with a simple idea. Every tax and accounting firm has these 3 layers, but almost every firm owner that we talk to runs their business only on 2 of them. And that missing layer, that's the one that makes everything, your onboarding, your client communication, your branding, payments, client management feel harder than it should. Okay. So today we're going to talk about the layer most tax and accounting firms were never taught to see, but absolutely need to run a modern, profitable, low stress practice in 2026. So before I jump into, I broke this down like I usually do into different sections. Rebekah, I'm going to bring you in with client experience, kind of hearing straight from the person that talks to our clients every single day, what they're seeing, what's working, what's not, what their challenges are. But before I get in this, I don't know if it's because it's 2026. I don't know if it's because what's going on in the world right now. But there is a ton of fear out there. And I call it the AI fear narrative. And what I think growth-minded accountants should position all this noise and kind of how they should absorb and analyze what they're hearing. So the fear narrative we're all hearing is, AI will replace most jobs. Elon Musk has been out very noteworthy lately because he's just raised $20 billion for his AI tool, right? He's also trying to drive the Tesla stock price and his robots narrative as much as possible because they just got overtaken in EV sales and cars, right? So there's reasons these people are out there using the internet and amplifying their messaging to make sure that everyone kind of hears it so that they drive their own results, right? But they're also trying to drive their narrative, their points of view on the world. But I'm a contrarian, I guess, in some respects. I believe society takes much longer to transition from one way to another. And it's not society. There's risks, there's laws, there's all kinds of social fighting back, power issues, water issues, you name it. So it's never as smooth as these predictors say. So, what are the loudest voices? They're saying AI will replace most jobs. Robots will do accounting. Universal basic income is inevitable, right? Professional services are obsolete. Knowledge businesses are obsolete. So, I heard Elon saying that the robots are going to be doing surgery in 3 years. So these claims, also awesome as they might be, and will they be there in the future? I 100% believe that. But they come from people building the technology itself, all right? So Elon Musk, NVIDIA, right, and others deeply embedded in the capability side of AI. And if you notice, they are investing in each other's companies. So there's a lot of self-dealing going on. And of course, they're going to keep trying to sell this because they have to keep the money coming, because in order to deliver on these promises, we need a huge amount of capital to be invested. So that doesn't make them wrong, right? It makes them very one-dimensional. So I like to say people closest to the technology often underestimate the friction of society. We maybe are closer to it because we're on a friction profession like accountants, so we're very wary of everything. So we see the pushback more than anybody. It's taken us 2 years now to get a big portion of our clients to start trusting AI tools in itself, right? Nevertheless, kind of training them how to use it. So there's a big deal here, I think, capability versus adoption. So AI capability is advancing fast. No one can say it's not, but adoption does not, right? And just because someone's forcing something on you doesn't mean people are going to start using it. And there's a huge part of the population in the United States that is not, they have no idea what AI is even about, right? They just hear what they read on the New York Times or snippets on TikTok, whatever. Between what's happening, what works, let's say, and this replaces a profession are some serious walls, I would say. So regulation, um, liability. And regulation also goes into, you just seen what's happening in, let's say, the entertainment industry, videos, use of news articles, copyright issues. There's all kinds of stuff that you're starting to see. And then state regulations, you got federal regulations of AI. It's all over the place, right? You have insurance, client trust, cultural norms, professional accountability, institutional inertia. There's a lot of issues. So technology moves very fast, but society moves very slow. So professions move slowest of all. And I would say tax and accounting firms might be the slowest, right? So there's no sudden, what I'm going to call a robot takeover scenario in regulated, trusted based fields like accounting. And I think history teaches us a lot of this, right? So in every major technology shift followed the same arc. There's fear, and there is a lot of fear right now. Rebekah, how much fear is out there right now?
Immense fear. But I think you're right. Every technological shift, every shift ever has come with friction. Even looking back to history, like steam engines scared people, rail travel, like everything new is scary at first, and then it eventually becomes less scary. So we are definitely seeing a lot of fear still, though. I think it's so different from a lifestyle standpoint, and it's creeping into kind of every aspect of people's lives. So it's causing kind of more friction than perhaps some other types of technology would that wouldn't affect your day-to-day life in such a huge way.
Well, and I think part of what feeds that fear is exaggerated timelines. So I'll give an example. I think it was 2016, Elon said all cars would be self-driving. And we're to the point where we have supervised, self-driving cars right now. So my Tesla has the ability now to do it. I have friends that totally trust it, say it's the great thing ever. But that was 10, 12 years. We're still at the very beginning of that. Will that be another 10 years before it's so is that a 20-year process? And what you're hearing today in the media and Elon saying 3 years, 2 years, this year. And I think that's a big deal, right? So keep following the kind of these talking points. So you have task automation, you have role evolution. I think that is a huge, huge part of this. I have a friend who is in the financing business, and they're concerned they're going to be eliminated by AI. But I'm like, whoa, you're the client-facing person. You're there to make sure that the machines, now instead of the underwriters who may have delayed you or put roadblocks in, AI may be able to expedite that in many faster ways, right? But in reality, you're probably going to be empowered to do more lending faster. Your job might even be easier, but the firm itself, yeah, they may have cut or replaced some jobs with some automation tools, some AI. And there's always some new winners. So what I like to think about is the tax and accounting firms that jump on this will be those new winners. So computers didn't eliminate accountants. Spreadsheet, and accountants some are still using Windows, old Windows machines. So that's definitely there. Spreadsheets didn't eliminate finance teams. The internet didn't eliminate advisors, right? They eliminated low value work. That's what we're seeing. Undifferentiated firms. Big word for me. But we have talked about that a lot.
Yes.
If you're a commodity, if you're saying the same thing that everyone else is saying, you're going to have a serious problem standing out. And then, of course, firms with no client experience. Okay. So technology doesn't eliminate profession, it eliminates firms that fail to adapt. So what is AI actually, right? And what is changing in the accounting space? So AI is not primarily replacing judgment, trust, or accountability. Who's auditing the AI agent, for example, right? It is compressing time. We're seeing that now. It's automating repetitive tasks, which is wonderful. I think everyone would love that, right? It's raising client expectations. It's exposing weak systems. It's rewarding clarity and consistency, which leads to the real shift. And the real risk isn't AI, it's the missing layer. And that's what we're here to talk about today. Rebekah, I know you're excited. You're like, is he just going to talk the whole time? The good news is I'm not, because my voice is already going out. So most firms are already overinvested in work layer tools. So I'm talking like tax prep, their accounting software, payroll, their team layers, which is like the Jiras, the Trellos, the workflow, the task management, and they're completely underinvested in what we're going to talk about today, the client experience layer. And AI doesn't break firms, it reveals where firms are incomplete. So AI to me is a stress test. Firms with client experience layer will pass. Firms without one will feel crushed. And we see this every day online in conversations that are happening. People talking about, oh, I have this client who ghosts me for an entire year. Does it, until December, they don't even come back to talk to me. But if you had this client experience layer dialed in, expectations would have been set. Periodic touch points would have been set. They can't ignore you, right? You've already positioned it. And those that don't are those that are feeling like, I don't have enough time in the day to deal with my clients that I have. You know what? You're attracting the wrong kind of client. So why fear mongering misses this opportunity? And I think it's because fear focuses on replacement. All my colleagues are all talking about being replaced, right? We're all going to be on universal income and we're all going to be sitting on our devices all day. I'm like, oh, this sounds fun. We'll be watching Netflix. That's great. Growth focuses on leverage. So the firms that win in the AI era will own the client relationship. They're going to control communication. And again, remember, this is your moat, right? They're going to systemize onboarding. They're going to centralize trust. And what I mean by that is, as AI grows as a tool, all that data about your client should be in one little ecosystem that your AI should be able to read and do proactive recommendations, perhaps even answer questions from your clients automatically, right? You're going to be able to centralize all this as like one big knowledge base about your client that you can identify things that you wouldn't, opportunities. Maybe there's a tax planning strategy. Maybe there's clients who aren't saving in 529 plans that have children. AI is going to be able to proactively recommend this. And then with tools, you'll be able to send out a proposal or communication about it and say, hey, you should be doing this and this is why. So it also helps you tell a clear story and deliver a predictable experience. So these are things that are human experimental advantages, not computational ones. Okay. So AI raises the floor, your experience raises the ceiling. Okay. So our firms, hopefully the growth-minded accountant followers, instead of asking, will AI replace accountants, ask, which firms will feel easier to work with? That's what your consumers, your target's going to be doing. Which clients trust instinctively, okay? Which firms are visible to AI search? Huge topic that we're going to talk about today, Rebekah. And which firms have a system clients can feel? So that's where the opportunity land. So I'm going to go back here is AI won't replace accountants. This is my big takeaway. It will expose firms that never built a client experience. And you're like, okay, is he done with his mantra? Yes, I am. But let's talk about the setting the stage. What is the hidden friction in firms? And now we're going to jump into more of what this client experience looks like. So I don't think most firms are broken. They're just not doing something wrong, right? They're not just running an incomplete operating system. Tell me if this sounds familiar. And again, these are things, Rebekah, you see all the time, and I want you to start jumping in here. So client messaging, it happens everywhere. You got emails, you got texts, you got someone using Dropbox, you have all these different tools. You send out a proposal, perhaps it sits unsigned. You then have to chase it. What's the problem? Did it get delivered? Was it easy to pay? Or they approve a proposal, but now you bill them through QuickBooks, right? Payments trickle in, so you got cash flow issues. Clients don't pay you. They don't pay you up front, perhaps. Onboarding takes way too long. There's too much human, there's too many admins, there's too much labor there. You're constantly repeating the same instructions over and over again. I think everyone can feel that, feeling reactive instead of in control, and running the whole year as if tax season never ended. I think everyone can feel that, right? So these aren't necessarily people problems. They aren't workflow problems. They are system problems caused by a missing layer, and that layer, Rebekah, is a client experience layer. So let's define this, and you're open to jump in here in a second. So, what are those layers? I'm going to define a little bit more. The work layer. This is where the compliance happens, right? Your tax software, your bookkeeping systems, your payroll tools. It gets the work done. The second layer is that team layer. That's workflow, task management, practice management. This is how your team stays organized so you can handle all these engagements, handle all these client communications, knowing what phase a tax return is in, for example, or if I'm doing monthly write-up, whatever it is. So the third layer is this client experience layer, which almost nobody has. And that's where this onboarding happens. This is where the communication happens. This is where payments happen. Proposals get signed, messages flow, scheduling happens. Clients understand their path, right? Your story gets told, visibility gets built. It's the layer clients actually feel, and it's what's missing in almost every firm. So, Rebekah, I want you to start kind of explaining when you meet a client and try to start explaining what this is all about. What you usually see is kind of a commodity. I say nothing. I don't own a position. I don't have any processes in place. I just go to work, and that is obviously the problem we're trying to solve and get more people to jump on board. So how do you go through these discussions with our clients when you're onboarding them, kind of defining how they get out of that mess, get out of that muck into something more systemized?
Yeah, so I think a lot of what we talk about, especially when people get on the phone and they're like, I'm a generalist, which I hear 20 times a week, sometimes is that we really start to hone in on like, okay, maybe you think you're a generalist, but are you really? And a lot of the time, what we find over the course of our discussion is that there are a lot of things that set them apart. You know, when we do onboarding, one of the lines I say on almost every call is, we want to tell your story. We know tax and accounting firms can all sound very similar online. Can you tell me one thing that will help people connect with you or understand what your firm is really about? And that's the moment that the light bulb usually goes on and they realize, oh, wow, I actually do have something different or unique. And so that's kind of our jumping off point, right? And then from there, we start to build on, okay, how do we tell a story that is your story, your firm's story, not someone else's firm, not a general commodity firm, but what makes you different? What do you bring to the table? Who do you serve? And what are your core services? We usually try to hone in on 3 to 5 kind of core services that this particular firm offers that makes them different or that they're really good at. We don't want drop downs of 10 to 15 things. It is so important, not only for search, but for the user experience to offer something that is honed in and that shows that you have expertise. And I think that's a huge difference between Google and AI systems, is that while Google valued expertise in the sense of authority, AI really values expertise in the sense that you are putting into the internet ecosystem at large exactly what it is you specialize in and exactly how you can help people, and only you can help people. So we go through a lot of discussion about, what really sets you apart as a firm, because there's always something. And sometimes we just have to work through getting people to that point that they themselves recognize that they are unique and that they're not actually just providing a commodity service.
Right. And this goes straight into what the broken element of the client experience layer is in most firms, is they are not attracting the type of clients they want to work with. They are not, that's the client that I attracted who, is not listening to anything I give them for 11 months. And then on the 12th month, everything is a fire drill to get done. That is on you. You didn't set the expectations in your marketing collateral. That is on you. You did not set the expectations in your engagement letter, in your proposal, saying this is what you're responsible for, this is what I'm responsible for, and really defining. So when does that aha moment come with our clients when they start thinking things through a little bit differently? That, wait a second, I'm sitting here complaining about everyone, they're all complaining about the same problems. I don't need to market. I'm too busy. I have more clients than I could ever deal with. But what's the problem there? Like, explain that when people go, oh, maybe
Yeah.
isn't that the way I should be running my firm?
So it's a little bit different for every firm, right? But a lot of what we do on the back end of CountingWorks Pro within the dashboard is geared toward the client experience leader. So it's a little bit different for every firm, but a lot of times when we start going into looking at playbooks, or which are our kind of automated drip campaigns for those of you who are unfamiliar with the system, or we start talking about narrative and telling your story, that kind of gets a lot of people once they realize that it's important to actually attract the right clients in the first place. To your point, Lee, a lot of people think putting this generic content out into the world is somehow going to magically attract clients, and that's just not how it works. Everybody and their brother has a website. So unless you are setting yourself apart in some way and showing clients what you do differently, then you are going to just be a commodity. And I think that's one of the keys to the client experience layer that we haven't really touched on too much, is that showing people what you do differently is so important, and who you are. That's part of the client experience. From the time they first visit your website, they need to know who you are and what you do and what sets you apart from the other competitors in your area or in your field. So I think the aha moment for people a lot of the time comes when they start to kind of see all these pieces come together visually within our system. Oh, okay, if I have this story, I can send this marketing campaign, and that connects to this playbook, and that connects to these social media posts, and then we turn on blog automation, and all of a sudden you have this entire client experience layer that has proposals built in, engagement letters built in, that they've never had before. And it all kind of clicks into place like puzzle pieces. So I think visually seeing everything come together as we go through the system with them and explain everything is kind of that moment for most of our clients.
All right. And what I'm trying to get across, I'm not trying to sell CountingWorks Pro right now. I'm trying to explain to you guys, this is the client experience layer, is these little elements that you can add. It starts with I'm going to call it your branding, your positioning, your narrative. How does the world see your firm? Okay. That's going to help you attract the clients that you want to work with and start setting the expectations. But in order to have that client experience continue, it needs to fold straight into that first proposal that comes out. Now you've already given the talking points. You kind of said, this is how we work. Are we right? Yes. Are we right for each other? Put that language inside of your proposal, your engagement letter, even the way you do intake forms, systemize it. That makes it scalable and repeatable. And without this client experience, it goes clunky all of a sudden. And now I have a client, and now they're dealing with my 7 or 8 different tech stack tools that I use to work with clients. I store files here. I do my workflow here. I have clients emailing me here. I have a tax planning software here. I have all these different tools. Most likely they don't speak to each other, or if they do, they're hard to learn. So your staff has a hard time understanding them and learning them. So meaning they don't use them the way they should. And more importantly, your clients who are not seeing you on a regular basis, they can't handle these complex software products and figuring out where I just got an email from our CPA firm, and they literally listed 6 different products they're using. Which one do I trust? When I get an email from this one, wait a second, did they say they use ShareFile versus Canopy versus Dropbox? I can't remember. And then I get a phishing email, from my accountant, and I open it and I'm like, oh. So there's a lot of clarity there. So that's why, we're trying to understand how this client experience comes in, and that is the layer that's missing, right? So a lot of this stuff is done manually, or the communication is very scattered. I think bottlenecks occur normally, and clients become the delay point at times. You're chasing things, and you're always reacting. You're reactionary versus having a system that goes through. So nothing here feels predictable. And I think the firm is doing the job of 3 systems while only running on 2, right? So that is the source of the overwhelm. And that's the realization, the aha. It's like, oh, there are 3 layers. Oh my God, that explains everything. That is why tax season feels insane. I've been telling you. That is why advisory always gets pushed off. I think this is a very important one, because part of the client experience layer, you should have automated, outbound, ongoing, year-round upsell campaigns to your client base, whether that be your tax prep clients to tax advisory. You're doing soft sell, blog writing, outbound emails, social media posts, newsletter articles, and explain, actually, Rebekah, this is part of why advisory is very hard to sell for most firms is they usually may see an opportunity only when they're talking to clients. But life happens year round. People have life events, life experiences year round. If you're not already kind of positioning, and how long does it take someone to go, oh, wait a second, advisory, I never thought advisory was right for me. But then you start reading articles or you see a social post and it's like, that speaks to me. Why is that so effective?
So I think I was actually going to jump in here. And one of the things I want to bring up about this is segmentation. Segmenting your client list is so important. And it's something we still don't see a lot of people doing. And it can be a massive, massive game changer for you from an upselling standpoint. So life does happen all year, right? But different clients have different needs. They have different things happening. So if you have people who are near retirement, for example, they're going to have different needs than people who maybe have kids getting ready to leave for college, or people who are selling businesses or starting businesses. So it's really important to be in communication with these clients all year long so that you stay top of mind and you become the person that they go to when they need financial advice. They're not going to the internet. They're not going to TikTok. They're not going to their mom. They're going to you because they trust you, because you've been in their inbox, you've been on their social feed. So the more you can do to stay top of mind and provide relevant information to these different groups of people, that is where you can become an advisor without even trying to, right? Because they're going to trust you to give them the advice they need to reach whatever financial goals they have, because they've been seeing this valuable, pertinent information in their inboxes, on their feeds, on your website all year long. So I think that's where firms that really embrace what we're talking about today, one of the places they really stand out is kind of the year-round touch points that other firms, just tax prep commodity firms, just simply don't do. So I think this is maybe one of the most important things we're talking about today from an implementation standpoint. It's not hard. It's not challenging to implement, a lot of this that we're talking about right now, but having, more marketing features, more email campaigns going out, segmented newsletters, targeted social posts, all of that is going to play a huge role in your advisory business moving forward.
Yeah, and I'm going to go into, I think the mentality is most firms look at growth. And so it might be for more marketing, it might be for more referrals, it might be better workflows, right? It might be new software or even adding staff. But I think the growth layer and what we try to talk about when we say client experience, Apple used to be Amazon is probably the best in client experience right now, right? They have nailed the entire shopping, every pain point, everything you've ever experienced. They have made it so convenient that it is just second nature. You don't even think about it. You don't even think that you're spending money. You're just doing it, right? You just go to Amazon and order stuff, and it's there the next day or the same day or whatever. And they have completely revolutionized that side of the world on the e-commerce side. So when we talk about client experience, you're doing the same thing here for your practice, because this is the layer that controls how many referrals you're going to get. Because if you're badass and you're over delivering and you're responsive, you're going to get more referrals from current clients, right? If you're top of mind, you're sending them newsletter, communicating well, proactively giving them advice, you're going to retain more clients. They're going to be easier to upsell because they trust you, right? Your client satisfaction scores are going to be off the charts. More importantly, your turnaround time, you're going to be so much more responsive because AI tools and systems are going to do so much more than they did before. You're not going to wait 3 and 4 days to reply to a client, right? Your perceived value goes up, the more you can charge. Your brand becomes more remarkable, more referable, and more importantly, your capacity increases, right? So it's the one layer you got to think about that clients actually interact with. And that's what everyone in the tax and accounting space forgets. Oh, I have all these. Look at my tech stack. We see it now. I had someone come in as a prospect and they said, how does your platform replace these 12 tools? And I'm like, oh my God, I guarantee you, and it was let's say they have 5 partners total and a couple admins. There's no way that staff knows how to use all those tools. They have them because they think they need them, but they're not actually utilizing them. And more importantly, how is that delivered to the client? That's the client experience. That's where the real value is. It's the only layer that differentiates you. Especially as knowledge becomes commoditized, that is the client experience is going to be that thing that keeps moving your business forward, right? The work layer, it does the work. The team layer, it organizes the work. The client experience layer, that is what drives the business. So what is important about this is AI makes this even more urgent. So we're in 2026. And let's just start with the big transformation we saw in late 2025, and that's AI research, not research, AI search being completely reshaped. How people not only refer accountants to others, but even how they're introduced, right? So AI doesn't read keywords, AI reads identity. So AI looks for firms with a story, a niche, a point of view, a clear experience. So if your firm does not have a narrative, they have no client experience, you're not feeding these AI tools your story. You're invisible both to humans now because they're on ChatGPT and you're not being referenced on ChatGPT. And more importantly, even the search algorithms. So narrative as infrastructure. So kind of explain we've walked around this, but what are the things that we're seeing that are moving the needle and getting our clients involved in those conversations, reviews, case studies, FAQs, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so geolocation is huge. It's been huge. It remains huge. We want to see you putting out content that's localized. There are all sorts of ways you can go about this, whether it's social posts pertaining to your local area, blog posts pertaining to your local area, the top 10 tax tips that dentists in Minnesota need to know, that kind of thing can be really, really helpful when it comes to AI. Another thing that we're seeing is the FAQ page. If you don't have an FAQ page on your website, you're already behind. AI references FAQ pages all the time. All AI, Gemini, Perplexity, GPT, they all love frequently asked questions pages because they answer very specific questions, sometimes questions that people are actually searching, and they provide very clear answers that the AI system can easily understand to say, hey, I know that this is the right person for my user based upon this information. So that's really, really key. And having a story, a cohesive story across multiple platforms. Within my industry, we call it multi-channel. So multi-channel would be your social media profiles say the same thing as your website, says the same thing as your profile on Medium or Newsbreak or TaxBuzz. And that says the same thing as your bio on a place where you've guest blogged. So having a cohesive narrative that says, hey, this person specializes in working with pediatricians in Dallas, and they have 25 years of experience in the tax and accounting space, and they're looking forward to serving modern pediatric firms that are looking for tax and accounting advisory. That can be a way to differentiate yourself. Use that terminology everywhere. Across the internet, make all of your content kind of relate back to this core idea, and you're going to be in really good shape from an AI search standpoint moving forward this year. It
Yeah,
becomes the building block.
I was going to say, Rebekah, you have nailed it. And kind of explain, or just I want you to continue on that AI knows the searcher. They have the memories of what this person is all about. So when you put those terms and the type, so even how much do I charge? The exact niches, the exact services, the exact experience I've had, whatever designations you have, because it's going to start matching what this person is asking for. And it might even connect if someone's saying, hey, I'm a small business owner, I'm looking for QSBS stock. It might already say, okay, what are the correlations that someone would be able to help this person with the QSBS stock? That is a very complex setup, right? And if you have all this content created and it's in your narrative, the AI then starts matching. Basically, it's like a dating algorithm, but you've just nailed that and explained. That was a perfect thing. That's the one takeaway from this. Everyone needs to understand you need to have more information than less. And the best way to test that is to go ask AI or ChatGPT, for example, about your firm and see if it says what you think you are. So explain a little bit more how you help our clients kind of communicate that to the AI engines.
Yeah, so I think one thing to remember here is that, like you just said, Lee, AI knows the searcher in a way that no other type of algorithm ever has. So the more personal information you're willing to put on the web, the more likely you are to get recommended because you're showing personality. So kind of as an example, I love Star Wars. So my AI knows that I love Star Wars, and I was looking up restaurants. This actually happened recently, and I put nothing about Star Wars in the prompt for restaurants, and it recommended a Star Wars themed pizza place to me because it knew that I loved Star Wars from past conversations. So I think that's something to remember, is that these threads talk. Someone might have 50 threads in their GPT, but the memories are all in one place. So for example, if you love fly fishing, for example, and someone who loves fly fishing is searching for a small business accountant, and you happen to be a small business accountant who enjoys fly fishing, you are very likely to be recommended to that client based upon things that seem completely irrelevant to your business, because it knows their interests and thinks that you might be a really great fit for this person. So the takeaway there is not to be afraid to put personal things on the internet. You don't have to get crazy personal or let people know your kids' names or anything like that, but expressing your hobbies, your love of travel, your love of these certain activities, that can be a really great way to get recommended that nobody's really thinking about, but it works because the system knows its user. And so if you align with that user in ways that you might not even be thinking about, you're going to be much more likely to stand out to the AI system. So I think that's kind of another direction we can go, and something important that I talk a lot to our clients about when they're reticent to give us information.
Awesome. That's the best example we've given, and I think it really breaks it down. So we've walked all around it. Why should firms invest in the client experience layer? And I'm going to say what changes immediately when you do this. So onboarding collapses from days to minutes. You save hours and hours, and then the labor component on that itself is significant. Okay. It more than pays on any software that you're using. More importantly, communication starts centralizing. You can start putting all this context in one brain. And why this is important is AI systems and closed platforms like ours can now look at this data and say, hey, based on other KPIs, or based on growth rates, or based on missing elements, based on age, demographics, industry, profession, these are the things we most likely connect, and these are strategies this person might want to do. Okay. Really important. And that opens you up to advisory on, steroids, right? Proposals get signed. They don't get left in the ecosphere, right? And you're just like, oh, did they pay or not? Payments happen automatically. Clients they stop checking in to see, hey, are you working on this? Are you doing this? Because they're in a process and they see it's structured and they know I'm now in this review stage, or I'm in, whatever. So it starts freeing up that 2 or 3 extra check-ins that you have to reply to if you want to be responsive. Otherwise, you start looking non-responsive, right? Advisory becomes doable. It becomes part of your process. Tax season stops becoming less like trench warfare, and everything starts becoming more predictable. So they're not necessarily smarter. They're not luckier. They're not better staffed. They just have all 3 layers, and that completes it. That's going to make you a very successful firm. So most accountants think running a firm is supposed to feel really hard. And I'm telling you right now, with AI, if you're using it, it's not. It only feels hard because you've been running it without this layer that holds everything together. And again, I want to remind you guys, this is your moat. As private equity firms have already learned, they buying up all these firms and they're trying to commoditize everything. And they're like, whoa, why are clients leaving? Why are clients upset? Because your relationships are your moat, okay? Invest in them, protect yourself. Do not let these AI tools or these, tax prep tools or whatever, bookkeeping automation tools, do not let them replace you. You want to expand your advisory service. You want to become more valuable, right? So the moment you start seeing the 3 layers working, you won't go back. Trust me, you're going to love it. So I think we've hit all around this. I hope I've communicated this as well as we could. I wanted to address a couple things. I felt the AI fear narrative needed to be addressed, so I may have gone a little off script, but I hope that we have kind of figured out what this client experience layer is all about, right? So I always look at it as all your client-facing digital touch points, and then how does that go to my back end, right? Is everything super simple to learn? Do I need 30 days training for my staff to understand software? Don't use it anymore. AI should be able to do things intuitively. You should be able to prompt talk to your software now, and it creates an output. I should be able to say, hey, Max, I want to create a proposal for a CPA firm, and I'm doing CFO advisory services. They're located in San Diego. They have 3 dental offices. They're doing around 12 million in revenue. And I want to have a very comprehensive review that includes their individual tax prep, et cetera. I just did a prompt to Max. Max would create that proposal. I could review it, making a change, click send. It's off to my client, right? I could have also created an engagement letter that automatically kicks out, that has the same language, talks to them as a dental professional. Okay. And then when that's signed, I have an intake form. So what may have taken hours and hours and hours is truncated into minutes. More importantly, your client experience is that much better. But think of all of the win back in time that you're getting, right? So this actually a system. Yeah, this isn't just a tool, right? It's a system that gives you your time back and more importantly, your control. So work layer, it gets the work done. Team layer keeps your staff sane, hopefully, right? Most of them, the team layer right now is the biggest battle. Clunky software, I'm hearing it from more and more people. I think the AI first tools are going to start replacing all that. So let's talk about the client experience layer. That's the layer that finally gets your firm to run the way it was meant to. And I'm hoping that 2026 is the years accountants stop running barefoot, right? And start getting into the full capabilities of what advisory, what AI, what this technology change is doing for them. So that is our first episode of the Growth Minded Accountant for 2026. It was a long one, and it's setting the tone for a lot of things. So we're going to start breaking down even more details. I think just the takeaway from Rebekah on how AI sources who they talk about based on what content you're putting out there, that in itself paid for your time today. So whether you're working with CountingWorks Pro or not, go look at your own content, rewrite it, make sure it's really answering every question that a user wants. Because think about this, ChatGPT in some ways becomes a salesperson for you. So the more information you're putting out there for it, the more FAQs, the questions, the answers, your preferences, the type of clients you work for, the how you work, the more it can see, the more transparent, the more likely it's going to match you with more people. So think of it as a dating app in some ways. So that is a wrap on this first episode. Again, thanks for all the commentary. Contrary, you agree, disagree. I love the banter. And if you have not joined us on the Growth Minded Accountant Reddit, you may not be a Reddit fan, but there's a lot of really good information. And think of it as kind of like an ongoing forum where we're posting a lot of takeaways, a lot of kind of free strategies, tools. There's nothing salesy on it at all. So go to Growth Minded Accountant, ACCT, and definitely start following it. So again, thank you for being a listener. We look forward to engaging with you all year in 2026. Please spread the word, and hopefully you gain a lot of intelligence from this. Thank you.